Good afternoon, Joshua and Rebecca. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, we're doing really well. Good to see you, John.
Yes. Thank you for having us on.
No, sure thing. So today's we're going to be talking about something very important. We're going to be talking about Sound of Hope, the story of of Possum Trout. I got to say that when the time comes of release on July 4th, I think that the audience is not ready to have a box of tissue papers next to them because my experience of the film was literally we had on the introduction I was fine, everything was good, but going second act to going to the third act, I was like my son was looking at me like every time like why are you crying? And such an important story and how powerful it is. I know, Joshua, you are the director and the writer, but as well, Rebecca is part of the writers of this story. How did both of you sat down and wanted to tell this story to the people?
Yeah. Rebecca, you start because it started with you.
Yeah, so we produce the film through Peachtree Productions, our company as well. But it started actually 8 years ago. We 13 years ago, we fostered and adopted two of our own children. And that really like broke our heart for this issue and for kids that are in the system. And so I started working to mobilize churches and get more people involved in the foster crisis in America and came across this story and really realized like this is really a powerful story that has the potential to change things. So I went to Josh and we worked together and said, I think we're supposed to develop this and write this and bring this story to the world.
How about you, Josh?
Yeah, it took me. So we were in the middle of another project trying to get it off the ground and had some really amazing things happen with it. It's a little short film called The Butterfly Circus, and so my head was kind of in that space, and the story I'd known a little bit about it, and I think like a lot of people when you first hear it, you're trying to figure out how do you get this to work on a as a movie. It's got 22 families at least, and then you have 77 kids, and it's just not it's not something that screams feature film necessarily. A lot of people even thought maybe it's a documentary, and but I'm not interested in those kinds of things. So we really wanted to do a narrative film if it was possible. And so once I really got into the stories of these kids and got a better sense of really what happened and what they were all up against and what these kids were dealing with, that hooked me. I really felt like if we could bring these kids' stories to the screen, and then how communities and families can get around them and walk through these all the trauma and different things that you face, then I got very passionate about it. So we ended up putting that other project on the back burner and decided, we feel like this is the one that needs our attention right now. And at that time, I mean, there was no money in this. There was no there's really no resources. We just kind of had to do it on what we call spec, and and on our own dime and our own time, just develop the script as we could. So it took a long time because of that, just balancing other work, and it looked probably 3 or 4 years before we really got the script to a good place. We felt like this is gonna do it.
While while writing the story, did both of you or either of you got to meet the family members while writing it? Because I know that if you put this type of story in a documentary sense, the people that are behind a documentary sit down with them and ask questions while filming, but in this case it's much more different because you guys are writing their story. So that you
Right.
get to sit down with the family members just to see or to learn how things were back in those days.
Yeah, we did. Rebecca spent time with him. Bishop Martin came out to Los Angeles and did some speaking engagements for Rebecca, and she did a lot of work in Los Angeles that she can talk about. We we met them. I think I met him for the first time in Possum Trot. I came out to Possum Trot initially to talk to him and start interviewing, and I think I brought my kids even for that trip. And so it was amazing. I came out to the area several times and just did everything that we could do to meet with everyone possible. So all the families that were available, couple of the couples had actually passed away. And so a lot of changes had happened since 97 or 8 when this began. And honestly though, it took a bunch of trips, but we did get to the point where we felt like we still hadn't really gone deep enough and hadn't really captured the depth of the story that we needed to. So we decided about 3 years ago to move out to the area and try to get to know everybody more deeply, get into the community, and we started going to church with them. And so we're actually still here now. The film's about to release, but we're still near the area, and that changed a lot for us. That really helped us connect with more people, more of the kids, and really understand things as best we could with the time we had, just by being in life together with them as much as possible.
How about your side of the story, Rebecca?
Yeah, I got to work with Bishop Martin in Los Angeles for several years, mobilizing the community and the churches to get involved. And, he's got a really powerful voice when he speaks on this issue. And so that's really what convinced us that this was a story that needed to be told, was that he just has such a commanding voice in this movement. It inspires action, inspires people to get involved. And we really realized there's a crisis going on in America with children. We have 400,000 children in the foster system, 100,000 waiting for adoption, and we have 400,000 churches that really could be helping more. And so, one of our main goals is to really show what can happen when a small church steps in and really cares for kids the way that we're called to as Christians. And so, but moving here to Deep East Texas has definitely been critical to the journey and to the story, just really getting to know the characters better and the kids. And, you know, uh, telling a true story is really challenging because there's a lot of responsibility with it, of really wanting to capture people's journeys, their stories. And so we took that really seriously, and the church was part of that journey, and that's been a really special thing for us and our family. They came to our house and they prayed over us, and they actually came to set and praised with us on set, and prayed, and a lot of those church scenes, people are saying, wow, this is one of the most authentic representations of true church that we've seen on camera. And a lot of that was because we were very intentional about making sure that they were included in that process and that they got to really, be part of that, so that they really were having church. They weren't they weren't pretending. So, and we're really proud of that.
Were there any challenges while filming? Because I while watching the film, I do notice that there's a lot of it's like I would say like a forest. There's a lot of, and I know that forests are not that keen on weather, but were there any challenges throughout filming?
Yeah, I mean, every production has challenges. We all know that. But yeah, this was especially difficult at times. And, part of it's our first feature film. And one of the things you face with that is trying to get, enough confidence in people and great talent and all the rest that you need. So it took a long time to gather the team that we needed. And, we're just kind of up against a lot. It was, we were shooting in a state where we're familiar with, and we ended up having to, probably the biggest challenge we had was having to recast our first two roles, and it was after about a week of filming. And long story short is there was just an obvious disconnect with the first cast, and it just wasn't working. Basically mutually agreed this was not a good fit. And so we ended up parting ways with them and recasting, and that was a huge issue, as you would expect. And that's something that could sink a lot of productions, or at least put them in a very long hiatus. But we managed to stay with it, keep things moving, and keep the momentum going. And I think we had enough people rally around the cause and what they knew this film could be, that we were able to get through it. And it made the difference between getting the film that we envisioned and felt was possible and needed, or just getting one done. And that was the main issue we faced. Like, we don't want to just finish a movie. We want to get the movie finished that we feel captures the story with the power that it needs to do the work and to affect people. And so, as monumentally challenging as that was, it was probably the most important decision that we made in the whole process.
Okay, and what would be your favorite scene? This question would be for both of you, that you guys take to heart. There's that one moment that you guys filmed, or when you saw the final product, that it's like you keep remembering it because it stuck to you.
Mm. Well, for me, it was not the most dynamic scene. I can get really excited about, the creative, and how do you capture something in the most interesting way, and all of the fun stuff. But I think the scene that I felt was most important, I think Rebecca and I agree about this, was not the most dynamic scene, but it was something that we hoped when we wrote it would be powerful and would really capture the essence of what these kids deal with, and the families, and we wanted to create a scene that brought all of that together and brought enough resolution and all the necessary things in the storytelling of filmmaking, that it worked and was satisfying. But broader than that, really wanting to make sure people had a strong sense of what these kids are wrestling through, and the emotional burden that is, and the weight of trauma, and the terrible things that kids experience, and the process of getting through those things and getting past them. So a lot had to do with the actors, and finding the right actors, which took a while. And then once we had them, I remember that day when we had that scene come up, and I just kept thinking about how important it was that we captured this. And I didn't want to overburden the actors, but I'm thinking as we're going, like, if they don't reach a certain point with this scene, then it's going to fall flat. It's just really, it could very easily be just kind of a simplistic, cheesy sort of moment in an inspirational movie. And that's not all what it was meant to be. So we got there. I'm not going to say much about it so people can experience it, but it's a scene that takes place on a swing at the end. And it's, the actors did what needed to be done with it. It's very powerful. And, I left that going, wow, just a few setups, but it's so emotionally powerful that I'm really excited about how people experience it.
How about you, Rebecca? Do you have a favorite moment on the movie?
Well, one of my favorite moments is actually the scene that Josh was in. Played Pastor Mark in a church scene that really shines a light on and kind of holds a mirror up to churches that aren't as involved as they could be or should be. And we had fun writing that scene. I've worked with a lot of churches. We we love working with churches. We want more churches involved. So it wasn't meant to criticize, but to really just give some constructive feedback of like where we're at and how we can do more and how we could accomplish so much more if we work together. So yeah, that was a fun one.
An important scene too, because it's, it's easy to maybe see that as a leader in a church and you know, try to figure out where that's coming from. I think it's clear where it's coming from by the time you get through it. But what Rebecca said is true, is, we've been there, we grew up in church, and she's worked with so many, and we understand what they're facing. It wasn't sort of an outside critique. It's really sort of like constructively addressing something as family and saying, are we going the right direction? Are we doing the things that God wants us to do? And are we doing them well? Are we doing them right? Are our eyes on the right thing? So it's a scene questioning priorities and holding up a mirror. And it's just important to do that in life, personally and as followers of Jesus. And just I think for all of us, we need to look at what we say is most important and figure out if that's true, then are we doing the best that we can with those things? And so I think we in the end captured the heart of it, and we love the church. We know what people are up against, but you'll have to find it out when you see the movie what we're talking about here.
This would be my final question for both of you today. If you could describe the film with one word, what would it be?
Hmm. Well, I haven't done that yet. I think the word that pops in my mind is identity for some reason. And I think because for me, that's it's a film about who we are and all the things that relate to that. Are we living from who we are? Are we missing that? Are we succeeding in that? And what does that mean? So I can't tell you if that's exactly right, but that's what pops in my mind. And I think a big part of when it comes to at least, the families doing the work of caring for these kids, to me, it's coming out of that place. Who are we? Are we meant to be in this mess, dealing with these things as Jesus would?
I think mine is similar, but it's faith. It's, I think we all know that we should be doing this and we should be doing hard things and caring for kids. Um, but I think this church was known by their faith, and without faith, it's impossible to please God. And it's going to take us stepping out in faith and doing hard things. And I think that's where God's going to transform us and change us and really change the church, and the world is looking on and saying, do you really believe what you say you believe? And we're standing up against so many things saying, we're against abortion, we're against this, we're against that. But I think when we step out in faith and really step in the trenches and do the hard work, that's when the world will know that we're really, who we say we are.
That's amazing, amazing. Both words are amazing. I gotta say, I was thinking so many words as well when I finished the film. I was like, "Wow, this is just so many things in one film, and the perfection at the end on how the story turns out." So Rebecca, Joshua, thank you very much for giving us the time to talk about the film, The Sound of Hope, the story of the possum trout, and as well, I'm super excited when everybody gets to see it on July 4th. Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
We're
you
much.
glad to
so
be here. Thanks so much, John.
much.